When I say my bed shall comfort me, my couch shall ease my complaint, then thou scarest me with dreams, and terrifiest me through visions. Job, chapter 7. 8 of us were pressed on the same night. Only I rose in the morning. The archive is in a small room above the Repulse grain hall. The young man with the recording machine is patient. He tells me there is no need to hurry. I am 81. There is need to hurry. My name is Joan Boyksader. I am the only living witness to the night of October 1873. 8 of us were pressed in Vallter. My mother was one of the 8. My younger brother Pere was one of the 8. 6 others in 3 houses along the upper street. By morning, my mother and Pere were gone. I was the only child who rose. The authorities call it suffocation. The parish call it possession. I have called it nothing for 74 years. I am here to call it by what I saw. Vallter was a herding village in the upper Ter Valley. 42 households. 1 chapel. 1 mountain road. We lived at 820 meters. The snow came in November and left in April. My family kept goats and the old plants. My mother Magdalena was the village herbalist. Her mother had taught her. Her mother before that. She knew the herbs for fever, for birth, for sleep. She knew the older knowledge as well. She knew what to place across the door. Hawthorn cut at the new moon. Blackthorn cut at the old. Hazel cut on the day of St. John. All 3 crossed at the threshold before midnight. Sea salt in an unbroken line at the doorway. The protection had to be set by someone from outside the household. An aunt. A cousin. A neighbor's daughter. Never by the family that slept inside. My mother had set the protection for other houses for 20 years. For our house she trusted my Aunt Roser. Aunt Roser had said it correctly every night since I was born. On the night of October 6th, Aunt Roser was sick with fever. My mother said she would set it herself. She knew the rule. She broke it once. That was the night. I slept on the lower bunk. Pere slept above me. My mother slept in the room beyond the curtain. I woke at the bottom of the night. I do not know what woke me. It was not a sound. It was not a touch. It was the room being heavier. I could not move my arm. I could not turn my head. I could not open my mouth to call out. My eyes were open. The lamp was out. There was a shape at the foot of my bed. It was the size of a large dog. It was the shape of a large dog. It was not a dog. It walked along the side of my bed. Each step landed without sound. It climbed onto my chest. First it was 8 kilograms. Then it was 12. Then it was 60. I could not breathe. I could not weep. I could only see. From the room beyond the curtain I heard my mother. She made a small sound. Once. Then no more sound. From the bunk above me I heard Pere. He did not make a sound at all. The weight stayed on my chest a long time. It felt like the rest of my life. Then it was gone. The room was light again. It was morning. I rose. My arm worked. My mouth worked. I called my mother. She did not answer. I climbed to Pere's bunk. He did not wake. I went through the curtain to the back room. My mother was on her bed. Her eyes were open. She was not breathing. There was a mark on her nightdress at the chest. I saw the mark. I was 7. I did not know what it was. I ran out of the house barefoot. It had snowed in the night. The street was white. Aunt Rosa's house was 3 doors up. She was at her own door, holding her own face. She had heard from the neighbors. The Ryu house had lost the mother and the infant. The Page's house had lost the grandmother. The Terret's house had lost the daughter, age 11. 8 in our village in one night. All in the deepest sleep cycle. All at the same hour by the chapel clock. All with the same mark on the chest cloth. The Guardia Civil came on the 3rd day. They walked through the 8 rooms. They wrote suffocation in their notebooks. They did not mention the marks. The parish priest came on the 4th day. He blessed the 8 bodies in one mass. He told the village it was a sickness from the marsh. There was no marsh within 20 kilometers of Vallter. By the 7th day, the bodies were buried. By the first snow, no one would say the name aloud. Aunt Rosa said it once, to me, in private. She said the word passanta. She told me never to say it after dark. She told me to remember the branches. She told me the protection had not been complete. I asked her what was missing. She said the hazel. The hazel had been forgotten. The young man from the archive is writing. He has not spoken in a long time. He has one more question. He asks about the mark on the cloth. I close my eyes. I am 7 again. I am standing beside my mother's bed in the morning. I am looking at the mark on her nightdress. I have not described it to anyone since. I will describe it now. It was a pawprint. The size of a large dog's paw. It had 5 pads in a row. Then it had a 6th pad. The 6th pad was in the wrong place. It was not where any toe could grow. It was set behind the others, near the heel. In the center of that 6th pad was a hole. The hole was perfectly round. 2 millimeters across. The cloth was not torn around the hole. The cloth had not been pierced. The hole was there before the toe. I saw it. I was 7. The hole was there before the toe. I went back into the front room. Pere had the same mark on his nightshirt. I went outside. The Ryu house. The mother and the infant had the same mark. All 8 had it. In 1924, the University of Barcelona examined fabric specimens. 3 veterinary specialists wrote a report in October that year. They could not match the print to any known animal. They could not explain the whole. They wrote one sentence at the end of the report. The print is consistent. The print continues. They left the page at that. The young man from the archive is no longer writing. He is listening. Aunt Rosa lived another 19 years. She raised me from age 8 to age 16. She taught me the herbs my mother would have taught me. She did not teach me the older knowledge. She said I had seen too much to learn it safely. She said one day I might need to know one thing only. She told me on her last morning, in 1892. She was 70. She had been sick for a month. She said the hazel had not been forgotten by us alone. She said the hazel had been forgotten by the whole valley. 3 years before the Vallter night, in 1870. The bishop in Vic had issued a circular. The circular went to all rural parishes. The circular was about superstition. It listed practices the parish would no longer bless. Among the practices was the cutting of hazel on St. John's Day. The hazel cutting was named as a pagan survival. The parish would no longer hold the St. John bonfire. Families who continued the cutting would be marked. Aunt Rosa said many families stopped that year. She said our family had been cutting hazel for 11 generations. She said my mother had wanted to continue. She said my father had asked her to stop. My father worked in the lowland orchards in summer. He needed the parish certificate to find work. He had asked my mother only to stop the cutting. He had not asked her to stop the placing. She had stopped the cutting in 1871. She had used the old hazel for 2 years. By October 1873, the old hazel was brittle. It was the brittle hazel she meant to place that night. It would not have made a difference. It would not have made a difference if it had been fresh. Aunt Rosa was certain of this. Aunt Rosa was the one who told me about the circular. She told me to remember the circular. She told me the protection had been forgotten by the parish first. Then by the village. Then by our house. Then by the night. I left Vallter in 1893. I was 27. I went to Ripoll to work in the textile mills. I married a woman named Concepcio in 1898. We had 4 children. 3 lived. I did not tell Concepcio about the night. I did not tell our children either. I told no one for many years. I held the brittle hazel branch in a small wooden box. I kept the box under our marriage bed. Concepcio never opened the box. I think she knew not to. The world changed twice in my long life. The first time was the Great War. Vallter lost only 2 men, both of them shepherds. The second time was the war that came to our own valley. The fighting reached Ripoll in early 1939. By spring, the new authorities held the town. By summer, the archives were closed. The parish records were sealed. The civil records were sealed. The bishop's circulars from the previous century were sealed. The folkloric society that had collected village stories was disbanded. 3 of its members were taken. 1 returned. The others did not. The Centre d'Estudis Comarcals had been founded in 1924. It was closed in 1939. It reopened quietly in 1946. A young man came to my house in the summer of 1947. He said the center was collecting oral histories. He said the work was for the regional archive only. He said the recordings would not leave the Ripolls. He said someone had named me. Someone who knew the old families. I did not ask who had named me. I agreed to speak. Concepcio had died in the autumn of 1944. Our 3 living children had left the valley. I had no one to protect by my silence anymore. I had only the box under the bed. I brought the box with me to the center. I have not opened it. I will not open it now. The brittle hazel is inside. It has been brittle for 76 years. I have told you the night. I have told you the 8 names. I have told you the mark and the 6th toe. I have told you the circular and the brittle hazel. I have told you the silent years. There is one thing left. What was on my chest that night? What was on my mother's chest? What was on Pere's chest? I have asked myself this question for 74 years. I will offer 3 possibilities. I will not choose among them. I am 81. I am not equipped to choose. Possibility 1. The thing came. The thing the Catalan villages have a word for. The thing the parish would no longer name. The thing whose paw leaves a hole before the toe. Aunt Rosa believed this. She believed it until the last morning. I do not know if she was correct. I do not know if this is what pressed me. Possibility 2. The weight came alone. The body has a thing it does in deep sleep. The chest is held. The mouth will not open. The eyes see what is not there. 8 bodies in one village on one night can do this. The body holds. The lungs forget. 8 people stop breathing at the same hour. The print on the cloth is something else. I do not know what. I do not know if this is what pressed me. Possibility 3. The protection was the only thing real. There is no thing. There is no weight. There is only the practice that kept the night in its place. The hawthorn at the threshold. The blackthorn. The hazel cut on St. John's Day. The salt line that no one walks across. These were not magic. These were the daily acknowledgement that the night is not ours. The bishop's circular ended the acknowledgement. The acknowledgement ending was the thing that came. I do not know if this is what pressed me. Joan does not choose. The young man from the archive does not interrupt. The box with the brittle hazel is on the table. I have carried it for 74 years. I have not opened it. I will not open it now. It may have been the thing. It may have been the weight. Or it may have been what we forgot. What we forgot to place across the door. I am 81. I have brought the weight here. I leave it with you.